welcome back to another episode of the Silver Bike Restoration. We're starting out inside today. I've got all the bottom bracket parts sorted out. Each side of the bottom bracket has a set of bearings and they come with a cage system. With 9 ball bearings. Which are all 6.25 millimeters wide. And it's easy to put in because they're locked up in a cage. But if you take that cage off, you can slip in another 2 whole ball bearings into there, which offers a lot more surface area for, that's one, and another one that's going to come out here. There we go. So I've got 2 spare ball bearings. We're going to take the cage off, put them in loose so they're not bound in that metal circle, and we're going to put 11 bearings in each side, not just 9. So just got to get that cage off there with, all you do is get some grease first, put it into the bearing race, and you want that grease in there because the bearings, as you just saw before, they can fling out and fly everywhere because they're little racy frictionless steel balls. So we stick them in there, we use the grease like glue, and basically this metal cage is very soft steel, and in my experience you can open these things up and the bearings have dried out and started gripping the steel, and there's a whole lot more damage that can happen because that cage can disintegrate inside in the bearing race. So there's another, it's not going to happen with many maintained bikes because they get their bearings repacked all the time. So now we just take that cage away, grab the loose ball bearings and stick them inside there where the grease is waiting for it to... Oh, there you go. Now there's 9, and we can put another 2 ball bearings in that gap. So 2 whole ball bearings, way more surface area, they're all touching each other. There's, I'm going to put that crankshaft back in there, and you can see that is a lot smoother, and I'll just get it closer to the camera. You can see all the bearings going in unison around there, nothing in the way, no cage to get caught up in there and ripped apart. So the only problem is you have to make sure they stay like that as you wind that on to the bike. That bearing race has to be sort of screwed in. Now we're going back out to the workshop. I've got the what I'm doing today is the derailleur, which is all rusty, but as I was getting set up I found my forks had a little bit more rust on them, or it was more in the light, so I could sand off a little bit more of the other rust. Let's switch views back to the phone, and you can see there's 4 little bolts waiting to get out of the vise as well. So you can just try to see how that rust is coming off. I'm sanding that back a bit more, and I'm just going to give it a little bit more of a go, speed it up a bit. Top part of the forks has been it was the part that caught up on the top bearing race, so I'm giving that a good sand down, and then inside I saw that there was a little bit of rust down in that bolt, so let it soak with a bit more of that as we do the derailleur, and put that down, and we'll take these bolts out of the vise. They were just a bit stuck on there because they painted them in there, and they're looking good. Now I'm going to put them back with the brakes. Where is that brakes? No, not that one. that one, that one. See, we put everything back in the same where it is. There's the brake calipers. So we can definitely find everything later, because it's taking a little bit longer than I thought, just finding the spare time. Now here's that rusty old derailleur. I had such good success with the chain rings and the wire wheel that I'm going to give this a go, take that surface rust off. It hasn't got to the point where it's structurally bad, so I'm going to get the wire wheel going on it. This was Friday night, so there's a whole lot of motorbikes driving up and down. You might hear them in a minute. And that rust is just peeling off like you wouldn't believe, straight back to the steel. There's some more motorbikes. They came right outside the driveway. And that, just by doing that, it's got right back to the steel, and I was really happy with how it was looking. There was just the usual contouring of the rust as it had sort of eaten down a little bit into the surface of the steel. And trying to not damage the derailleur by putting it in the vise and getting the wire wheel going, but putting it in the vise a little bit on the edge meant that it was not as secure as I thought, and it can fall out and hit the ground. So that'll happen one more time, but try and get it secure. Okay, I'll clamp the bracket where you don't. That's not necessarily. If you bend that bracket, that's bolted to the bike. Who cares? That's a stronger part. It's not a delicate part of the operation of changing gears. Getting the chain to leap up on the chain ring, so there you go, it's a bit more secure. And happily enough, that wire wheel can fit right inside between the two walls of the derailleur, and really got into that rust, which I was quite happy about. I probably did a little bit more than it needed, but looking good. I noticed that the whole thing had a bit of a bend on it. I don't know what had happened, maybe it had been bumped in the past, not sure. But looking to straighten that up a little bit, they do have to have little bends in the derailleur face to catch the chain and pull it up. You can see one there. So I'm not going to straighten that out, obviously, but it was to a point where it was not normal. So I was just getting some bends working. And you can always go back later on when the chain doesn't work and keep adjusting that. But there's a top guard on it which I wanted to actually get straight. Drops down again because I didn't clamp it in the vise too hard, because that's just a sheet of metal that if you clamp that in the vise too hard, you bend the whole face of it, and that's the function of it, to pull the chain up off the next chain ring. chrome are coming off. These things are good quality steel and chromed, but if it gets under the chrome you get those flaky bits that need to come off. There's actually one flaky bit in there. There we go, get that out of there.
Let's go.
And that, what I'm doing is I'm going to paint this black, and those little skins, you need everything smooth if you're going to paint something. So here I am, like I mentioned before, I'm just activating what would happen if you pulled the gear lever with the cable by putting it in the vise and clamping it and activating that spring. Because inside there is more rust happening. So I need to get in there with a wire brush and get all that rust, the flaky surface rust off anyway. And while it's activated, I'm nearly to the point where I'm going to paint this, but I found in there I couldn't get sandpaper in. I used the sharp edge of an Allen key to scratch off this tiny last bit of paint. And trying to roll up my sandpaper and get in there. Get in. That's looking a lot better. You can still see in the video there's some orange of rust, which is bare metal, but it's just discoloured, and that paint can handle it. And just a little bit more adjustment on that side of the derailleur steel plate. Let's get painting. And do all the surfaces, and that's going to go black on silver when I put it back on the bike. Let's adjust this camera, that's a bit better. I'm going to hang that up on my hook above and get that out of the way, and while it's up there I'll give it a couple more squirts of paint that I can see in the light. Now we're going to swap over derailleurs to the rear, and so a caveat and explanation summary behind this rear derailleur is I was going with that single speed back hub, but as time went on I have decided to keep this derailleur and use all the parts that I can off the bike because it's working so nicely. And the functionality of having a changing gear bike rather than just a single speed at the back. On my particular commute that I'm doing, there are a few hills in the way and multiple times where I have to stop at lights or roundabouts and pedestrian crossings through Takapuna, so I really do would like the functionality of a few more gears. You saw in a previous video, it comes apart. The two wheels are clamped in with two plates, and only one plate, the inner one, has any rust showing on it. The spring itself also had a bit of rust, but I've soaked that in some heavy oil, and you can't get in there to maintain that. While I was doing it, one of the little tiny bolts flung off and went down on the floor, which was covered in leaves because it's autumn here, and I couldn't find it. So I thought, best time ever to sweep up the floor and try and find this bolt, and oh, hallelujah, there it is. Tiny little black and silver bolt in a leafy carpeted floor is not easy to find, but there it is, good. Anyway, while I'm here, I might as well carry on sweeping up these leaves, because a clean garage floor is a happy garage floor. This wasn't doing the business. I really do need to get my leaf blower organised. There we go, got to go grab the extension cord, because they blew in and they can just about blow out. I've got multiple fuel containers over here, I need to move those. Get those out of the way. That was good, put that lead away. Now, I've just come back inside. I have been wanting for a while a 15mm heavy open-ended spanner. I don't have any, and I've been relying on Imperial, and so I've got this 14mm spanner, which actually measures 14.2mm on the vernier caliper, and I'm going to just tickle that up with my grinder in the future video and make a 15mm for myself. But thanks for watching, everyone. We'll come back soon for episode 6, and we'll see you then.